Oh my goodness, you're not the only one.
Oh, it was my fault because I had boots and everything on it, but I didn't take the clothes off.
I ended up with poison ivy on a couple of places on.
She doesn't have it right now. She's good. She's clear.
No, this was back when we had a.
She's clear right now.
And then who else ended up with poison ivy?
Heather should be here too.
Heather ended up.
I had it for 4 weeks and had.
Oh, yeah. Heather had it really bad too. You'll have
Which
to
one is that?
compare notes.
I mean, I just used like calamine lotion at first.
Okay, I'll get you
That
one.
didn't do it. Yeah, I hadn't had it for 30 years.
No, I had it just in a couple of places on my legs and then, it was all good.
Gina told me I was staying.
Oh,
I had sick.
Have you
Oh,
been?
really?
It's,
I had a 15 days because I didn't go
I
home.
probably got a little swab and
Days off.
I guess I gotta go.
But that really helps with. Oh, yes.
White at their fairgrounds.
White, yeah.
Okay. Cider, apple cider.
Yeah, it really helps.
I'll have to learn that, but I'm kind of hoping to stay clear of it, but I bought a bottle of calamine.
That didn't, I used to get it all the time, but I've never had it in 30 years. It's crazy.
It never bothered me.
That's what I'm gonna sign up for more time this year. Maybe February would be a few hours.
Well, that's what I'm hoping is that this February be ready to do maybe salad, but.
Go ahead and write it in.
Oh, not right.
I was in Highland Hills.
I think you got that.
Yeah, we both.
I don't know where she's.
Wherever Gene was.
Yeah, she was over
the Bell.
She was at the house. Yeah, I gotta get the blue box straight. I do that out there. It's not that football. And they said hardly any snakes come out. Big out there, big rats. Right there.
I did see that. I left Highland Hills to go to the post office and just as I was going to turn into the post office, a little bluebird.
We've got, I've been seeing a lot of. Yeah. Enough of this place. Yeah, I was looking at the front window, it's like. That's not this. Yeah. Who's fun?
Oh, well, yeah.
Did you fill out your? Did you put? Oh.
You need to go somewhere.
I'm sure it's. I did.
Well, you need to come here and you'll have time to pass along. Oh, okay, but I mean.
No, it's a normal.
I've been involved. It's a friendly.
Oh,
Like 2 hours. I had a friend on vacation there, and that was there, and he teach. Yeah.
Dad, they was phenomenal.
It's far more attractive.
It's non-sex words.
Yes.
This is coming from classes. You know, there's little programs and things.
They're trying to
It's not even more pounds, right?
Oh, right now.
I mean,
So I think it's like two.
That's from summer, if you don't have your hours, you can get summer.
These guys are like buildings and buildings.
Oh, they do.
We're just.
Oh, they give them that, there's just so many every that they are into
It's so again, is there regular, because it has wonderful. Again, if you want to understand it,
what means.
we're gonna be on front row. It's 6 o'clock, Angel.
All right.
Thank you all for coming. If you want to call us a little actually, you're not required to, but you can if you want. No.
If you have, I'll pick it up.
There you
I'll
go.
let you get started.
There you go. All right.
I'm just the helper on the water barrel anyway.
That's fine.
Thanks.
Not required. Okay, well, before I get started, let me make one other minor reconstruction here. I thought I'd be okay, but I'm not going to be okay. One other minor adjustment.
I know it's in. I'll give you a minute since you just get
Thank
started.
you so much.
Thank you.
And you're already your sophomore.
So it's good for me.
It was gonna hit me right in the face and I wasn't gonna be able to see anything.
I have that thing issue in my office from about 10 to 12. I've closed the shades. Thank you.
Sorry. And I've got the blinds all differently and they're all going in different directions. So sorry about that.
Fix it.
Fix it. Why don't you fix it? All right. So welcome. I've actually, I know almost everyone in this room. Angel, I think we know almost every face. But I think it's great to start out with introductions first. So Carrie, since you're in the front left, it's all you. Or my front left, I should say.
Capricorn.
Master Gardener. You did. You hang out, you help with pollinator day, things like that. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to go now? Or you want to wait? Okay. Up to you.
Master naturalist,
Mm-hmm.
Libra.
I can see this class is going to take an interesting turn for 3 nights. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Kara, you're up.
I'm Kara, and I took Master Naturalist last fall. I'm in Master Gardener now. I'm Pisces, and I'm in New Albany.
Wait, you're up.
Clint Thomas from New Albany. I too, Master Naturals are hoping to get that with my volunteer hours. And I'm a Sagittarius.
Sagittarius rock.
You're up.
Power and I did the naturalist class. I've got a little group back here.
You do.
Keep it together.
Yeah.
And I'm in the Master Gardener class right now. And I mean, are we doing the zodiac sign?
If you know it, you feel free to throw it out.
Sagittarius.
Oh.
I like that.
You're up, Kat.
I'm Kathy Hoskins and I was in the group with
Yeah.
really good company for the Master Naturalist class and I'm working on those hours, but I'm working on them slowly. And I just completed my hours for the Master Gardener program.
Awesome.
Oh, cancer. There you go. Okay.
I'm Gail from Jeffersonville and I was in the naturalist class. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm a Pisces.
There you go.
Oh.
You're not the loner one. You're not the loner. Oh, there you go. You're up. There you go. Richard's hanging out. Justin, you're up. There you go. We got all kinds. Go ahead, Connie. Well, we got almost a line. Like if Kara would just scoot over, we have like a whole. Yeah, we'll work on that. So you're up.
Yes, there we go.
Dave Graff, been a master gardener for several years. And I live on an old farm. I have a lot of stuff I need to get rid of. And I need some help.
Mhm.
That's why I'm here.
We can probably take care of that. Do you know we can take care of that. Do you know your zodiac sign? Do you remember? Do you know what your he has no idea what he is. What's your zodiac sign? Do you know?
When's your birthday? When's your birthday?
April.
April what?
Oh, probably Taurus.
Now we're gonna look it up.
I think Aries is on the 19th. That's a cusp, yeah.
Zodiac. You are a Taurus. Taurus, yeah. All right. You're up, sir. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it is. Bobby Real, I live in Albany and English, depends on where I'm at. And, I'm Aquarius.
There you go.
Dawning. I'm Jennifer Real. I'm his older sister.
Okay.
I am a Pisces. Yes. And I'm also known as the flower lady.
Perfect. We can do that. We've got everybody. So do you want to go? Do you want me to go and then introduce you as a partner?
Go right ahead.
Okay. So although I know everyone in this room, except a couple new faces, Gina Anderson, A&R Extension Educator, and Floyd, I'm a Libra.
Oh, all by yourself.
No, Matt and I. That's why Matt likes me so much. Oh, the stretch. You're just like, okay.
So my name is Angel Jackson. I am the Director Educator at the Floyd County Soil and Water Conservation District. I'm helping Gina.
He helped sponsor this.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Gina's doing all the teaching. I'm just here for the laughs. And I too am a Sagittarius. I think you see a theme here. Sagittarius and Pisces people. We are a tribe. Libras can join in on occasion. A couple of you Taurus and Cancer, you come to you, but you're definitely Pisces, Sagittarius strong in here.
We are. I think this is the only class we've ever opened with zodiac signs. So thank you, Carrie. I think
Great.
it works. It works. So you're in the invasive species class. Tonight is really introduction to invasive species and where we're doing reporting at and stuff. I combined modules 1 and 2 because instead of doing a 4-part, it's just better if we do it as 3-part because these first 2 don't take that long to go through. And then we'll cover common invasives in landscapes and stuff, which would be what you would find in your woods also, not just around your homes, and then some replacement plants in the last class. If you attend all 3, Angel, tell them what they win.
Oh, you're going to win. So for completing the class, though, you will get something that's going to help you stop the spread of invasives. Shall I tell them what it is? Or
Well, we still need to count because we don't know. I think anticipation.
So there's your teaser.
Yeah.
You get a gift and it's going to help stop the spread of invasives.
Yes. So, and I am recording these, so I will send out the link to the recording in case you want to go back and hear something again or see something. So yeah, we are recording it just for the heck of it, because why not? Okay. Oh, it helps if I turn my clicker on. Maybe.
Technology's great in parts.
It's fine. I can just stand here. It's fine. Oh, I think I know what happened. I'm trying to do too many things at once. There we go. I had too many screens open on one screen and it was having a moment. So when we're talking about invasive species, several organizations are involved. So USDA, including NRCS, so the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and the United States Forest Service, Indiana Department of Natural Resources. SICM didn't used to be called State of Indiana. They just changed that. It used to be like, and it still says it in the logo, Southern Indiana Cooperative Invasive Species Management. That is not right anymore. They switched it to State of Indiana. This is our grassroots effort to control invasives.
And soil and water conservation district should be added.
Oh, it should be, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
So soil and water, we've got Purdue, and then the Nature Conservancy also. These are all groups that are either have funding or help seek funding to help public lands or teach private landowners like you all about invasives and try to control and eradicate in some instances, but not all. So an invasive species is the species that does not naturally occur in a specific area and whose introduction does or is likely to cause economic or environmental harm or harm to human health. Anybody want to give me a thought about an invasive? Any invasive? Autumn olive. Poison ivy is not on the list of invasive species. Bush honeysuckle, what you got there? Kudzu, we got that in Floyd County. Anything else? Vinca minor, because you learned about that one years ago. Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
isn't that invasive?
what was it?
Well, I don't think winter aconite is.
I thought somewhere it said it was.
It's not native, but I'd have to look to see if that's invasive or not. I don't know if winter aconite is or not.
Also, big one, Japanese honeysuckle.
Yep.
Mm.
Japanese honeysuckle,
Burning bush.
burning
Oh,
bush.
that's-
How about Japanese barberry,
Calorie
calorie pears,
Mustard, garlic.
garlic mustard, yeah. Still grass, we got a lot. Those are all plants. So we also have invasive insects and diseases and mussels in our streams and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to hit all kinds of things that are invasive. Noxious weeds. So this is a plant that is particularly troublesome. It could be a plant or a plant product that directly or indirectly causes injury to crops, maybe nursery stock or plant products, not just like corn and soybeans, livestock, poultry, or other interest of agriculture, public health. So an example of a noxious weed would be like purple loosestrife. It gets in our waterways. So it's on the federal noxious weed list because it cannot stay in our waterways. It clogs them up. A native plant would be a plant that is part of the balance of nature that has developed over hundreds or thousands of years in a particular region or ecosystem. So for Indiana, the tulip tree would be a native plant. We have little blue stem as a native grass, things like that, and we will get into more of those later on. And then we have non-native plants. So this would be introduced with human help, whether intentionally or accidentally, to a new place or a new type of habitat where it has not previously been found. This typically happens in the ornamental plant industry. We bring plants in because they look pretty. They were brought in the 1800s. They didn't do research. They're like, it looks pretty. Let's take it with us when we go. And then it takes over. Sometimes this happens with plant material and shipping crates. So shipping crates get algae or something on them, maybe from their point of origin, and it comes here and then it spreads here. And so APHIS was really funny. I've actually had some guy from APHIS go, do you want to come work for me? Like, as he's talking to me on my office phone, like, I can always take someone down here. You get to yell at people all the time to see what they've brought in. And I was like, that's okay. He's like, you can threaten them with like jail time. I was like, that's okay. I think I'll stick to what I do on my daily job. So naturalized plants are non-native plants that do not need human help to reproduce and maintain itself over time in an area where it is not native. Anybody have a good example of what you might think of a naturalized plant? It's starting to bloom right now.
pears.
No, no. Short, yellow flower. Dandelions. Dandelions are not native, but they've naturalized here. I have no idea.
At some point, like becoming.
Right? You would think, and not, you're just, yeah, I don't know how they determine all that, but a dandelion would be an example of a plant that's naturalized here. It controls itself, things eat it, whatever, and it's kind of figured out its way. Our earthworms are not native to the States, right? Yep. So those are things that have not originally evolved from here and have come in and maintain themselves. Exotic plants, not native to the continent on which it is found, and then translocated would be a plant not native to the portion of the continent where it is now found. And then we have, of course, the definition of a weed, which usually a plant, whether it be native or non-native, is not valued in the place where it is growing. And that's from APHIS. A better way to say that is a plant out of place. A weed is just a plant out of place. Could also be defined as any plant that poses a major threat to ag and or natural ecosystems within the US. So that's kind of our broad definitions of everything. And then those broad definitions, how do we control those things? How do we control the weeds and the noxious weeds and the natives and the non-natives? And it's through integrated pest management. So this would be a strategy that could include biological control. It could be habitat manipulation, modification of cultural practices, and use of resistant varieties. So when we're thinking about disease resistance in trees for different, like Dutch elm or whatever, that's an IPM, an integrated pest management. When we're looking at biological controls, if we're thinking about insects, we have, anybody got an insect that's invasive? Spotted lanternfly. Okay, it's from Asia. What controls it in Asia? And it's okay if you don't know. I don't know the answer either. But there's something that probably controls it in Asia, right? Another insect or a bird or something like that. Well, if we don't have that here in the States, how do we control it? And if we figured out what controlled it in Asia and we decide to bring that biological control here, what's the ramifications of that? It could work, or it could become another invasive. Emerald ash borer is the same way. It's from Asia. They know what controls it, but if we bring what controls it from Asia here, we might start a new problem. So biological control has to, there has to be a lot of research with that and figuring out how that works together. Habitat manipulation, that's what we're doing when we're going out and cleaning out the invasives, and then we're putting new plants that are native back in. That would be habitat manipulation. And then figuring out what cultural practices. We'll cover some of those later on. A second definition is it's an effective, environmentally sensitive approach to pest management that relies on a combination of common sense practices. Program that uses current comprehensive information on the life cycles of pests and their interaction with the environment. The information is a combination with available pest control methods. So anybody have a common sense practice that you can think of that might be used for invasives? Well, that would be a common sense, but I can think of a really basic one. Okay, you're hiking. What do you do with your shoes after you're done hiking? Just toss them in your car? What do you do with them? You could do a bleach bath. You could just take a brush and clean them out at that site. I mean, it seems pretty common sense. We have the same issue with boaters. If they're on open waters and stuff, it's really common sense just to ask them, hey, before you leave that area, when you pull your boat out, hose it off. That way, whatever's been in that water stays in that water, and they're not taking their boat from one ramp to a new body of water and a different ramp and taking something else with it. So just some common sense things. We do have some invasive species laws. So there's an executive order that established the National Invasive Species Council. And for the state of Indiana, we have our terrestrial plant rule, which became enacted in 2020. And we'll get into those in just a couple seconds. The first one is, though, President Clinton signed the executive order establishing the National Invasive Species Council on February 3rd, 1999. Okay. And so this requires that the Council of Departments dealing with invasive species be created. So the federal government was on it, but as we all know, the federal government has other issues to deal with on a daily basis. And so not that it's not important, but probably doesn't get looked at as much as other things. And then we have the Plant Protection Act, which is part of this, and this may prohibit or restrict the importation, entry, or exportation or movement in interstate commerce of plants, plant products, biological control, things of that nature. So if you go traveling abroad, before you leave, when you're coming back to the States, they may ask you, have you been to a farm? Did you have citrus on? Did you buy citrus and bring it back? Just that's the government's way of trying to control things. I had that happen when I went to Trinidad. I was going to take a brand new bee suit with me because they were going to take me out in the bee yards in Trinidad. Had someone sent me a webinar and I was watching. I was like, oh, I should probably call APHIS and have a conversation if I'm allowed to bring that back in. Like if I only go to one, and they're like, you could take it with you, but we won't let you come back in the country with it. Except when I came back in the country, nobody cared where I'd been. Like nobody asked me any questions. So, and they didn't have me fill out a form. So take it with a grain of salt about transporting stuff, but they do want you to, not transport things from country to country.
Except at Newark and not get your pink lady out.
Oh, did you have a pink lady and they got you? Bummer. Yeah, no, they didn't even ask me. They're like, and I was like running through Miami airport and I was like, gotta go. And they're like, yo, that looks like you. Anything to say? I was like, nope, gotta go. Gotta catch that plane. So keep that in mind, depending on where you're going to and stuff, what they will and won't allow you to bring back. And then our terrestrial plant rule for the state of Indiana designates 44 species of plants as invasive pests. So you cannot gift, sell, barter, exchange, distribute, transport, or introduce those plants in the state of Indiana. This rule is there to help protect everyone, but not everyone gets the idea about this rule. And so you get a catalog with seeds in it or plants. Sometimes it lists, at least like California and some of the states out west, saying, hey, this can't be sold there. In the catalogs I've seen lately, I haven't seen Indiana listed. So now it's really up to the homeowner going, oh, is that prohibited in my state? Which how many people are really going to go looking for that list going, oh, I can't buy English ivy and bring it back in because English ivy is on this list. But so it's making sure that everyone that's involved in the plant trade gets the memo. And the way this was designed, when the state did it, they were trying not to create financial hardship on anybody. So the plants like the calorie pear, which you would assume is on this list, is currently not on the list because it was going to be a multi-million-dollar hit to the industry in Indiana for all the nurseries that had them sitting on their lot. So they said, well, you have 5 years. More than likely, we will see calorie pear on the next rule, which is going to be revised by March of next year. I don't know for sure that we'll see it, but that was the thought behind it. They were going to give nurserymen about 5 years to cut down their stock on invasives because they said, we've already bought it. We're not going to ask you to destroy anything, including English ivy and everything else that they had. We just ask that you sell down and don't buy any more. So now when they're going to make their orders, they're having to check the terrestrial plant rule and making sure that they're not ordering something that's on our list. But you can find this list and other lists at these lovely resources, which I will send out in an email to you all. But the Nature Conservancy, DNR has the list, USDA does, everybody has the list. And so we all try to promote the list because the list is really important. And then how do we, there's a cost here. So remember, it's really slow to gather information. We know how the government works and it's kind of slow to gather things. So this data is from 2004. So think about 2004, 20 years later, how much this would have changed inflation and everything else. This is the estimated annual cost with some alien species introduced. This is plants. And these numbers are in the millions of dollars. So for aquatic weeds, loss and damages was 10 million in aquatics in 2004. The control cost was 100 million. That is, I would venture to guess, maybe quadrupled in 20 years would be my guess. Crop weeds, it doesn't cost near as much to control them, but in total, if you're looking at loss and damages and how much to control them, that's a lot of money being put out there. They just look at control cost for weeds and gone. I think the total is missing a zero there, but lots of people spend a lot of money controlling weeds in their lawns when there's other ways to control versus spraying. sometimes. So some of this would include manual labor because not all of this is just chemicals. It's also manual labor. Here is mammals. So wild horses, there's a little bit of loss and stuff, but nothing too major. No one's really trying to eradicate wild horses. Feral pigs, though, we do have feral pigs in Indiana, in the west side of the state, around Evansville and stuff, and Orange County. And so there is a cost, there is losses and damages, a little bit of control. It's not super expensive to control feral pigs because you can have a hunting season on those and people will go out and hunt them. Rats, we don't really have a control cost for rats and cats and dogs. We just know that they cause damages and stuff. So, obviously we don't have mongoose here, but that's okay. And then some birds, the pigeons, starlings. We don't know how much it got. Like, what for me, it was putting up some fencing over a joint in my roof that they kept getting in. Well, that was only like $10 or less to me, but someone else that has lots of buildings and stuff that they're trying to keep them out of, that really adds up. And that would be a hard thing to try to calculate. And then the brown tree snake. So this would be the one that they used was the amphibians and reptiles. So loss and damages is $1 million, but to control it, the brown tree snake is 11 million. Trying to control a snake. And they gave examples here. So an example would be like the Burmese python. That's a brown, they say brown tree snake, but a Burmese python would be another example of an animal we don't want in the States, doesn't belong here.
Just look at Florida.
Right, that's the thing. Look at Florida, what's down there that doesn't belong. Came in with people, potentially came in on boats, came in on crates. That is a beauty of being inland, is that we don't get a lot of the aquatic stuff because we don't have shipping ports, so to speak. Yeah. Asian carp, which there's also the black carp, and DNR actually had I guess kind of a hit out on them, for lack of a better term. Was it last year or the year before? I think it was the year before. They actually put a call out and said, hey, if you catch them, the black carp, please bring them to us and we will pay you for catching them so that we can destroy them. So they really did kind of put a hit out on them because they knew that they're invasive, and that the only way that they could help control it was to ask the public for help, saying it's too much for us. We don't have enough manpower. Can you fish them out or whatever? And then fish, just as a whole, there's 138 non-indigenous species. You know, we don't know how much it costs to control. So an example, as we were talking about, is the Asian carp. You know, it's a problem and it costs a lot to control the Asian carp. And then just for fun, here's our arthropods. So there's 4,500, I think. I don't think it's million because that's millions of dollars. I think it's 4,500 non-indigenous species. We have imported fire ants. We've got green crabs. We've got the gypsy moth, which we do have in the state of Indiana, but is no longer the gypsy moth. As of December 4th, 2022, it was renamed to the spongy moth. You're looking at me like, why? What happened?
It was offensive to gypsies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was legit. The Hungarian population was offended.
Yeah, legit.
Yeah. So then we're looking at pest in lawns and gardens and forest pest. Any questions so far? I know I'm throwing lots of numbers out at you. And then just as the mollusk, so Asian clams, zebra mussels, shipworms. We do have mussels in the state of Indiana that are considered invasive and stuff, and people are trying to work to make sure our waterways are healthy. Some microbes. So we have crop pathogens, we've got some forest pathogens, and then we have Dutch elm disease. So really, we don't know how much in loss and damages, but we do know control is $100 million. That is one that has been around a while. You need two pieces to make it happen. So you need the disease and the insect that spreads it. And then we have just for the heck of it, diseases in total would be livestock diseases, and then human disease. We don't exactly have a loss and damages on. Control cost, obviously, if you add the pandemic into that, because that was something that was not native, this number would, I don't even know how big this number would get if this information were new as of today. These numbers would obviously be much, much higher. So invasive vegetation management, there's 3 principles. It's prevention, early detection, rapid response, and then strategic control of existing infestations. So once they're established, depending on the plant, we may have trouble eradicating it. So it's really just maintaining it to a small area as best we can. Some prevention would be cleaning footwear, right? It's common sense, clean your footwear. And clothing. How many of you get the stick tights on your pants and stuff and go somewhere else after that and dropping it along the way? Equipment between work sites. For example, if you're having someone come cut your grass, they've gone to someone else's house first that maybe has a lot of plants that you don't like. If they don't blow off their mower and their blades before they leave that house, what are they bringing to your house when they turn those blades on? The same is true with the road departments. That's how a lot of our weeds are getting spread. They're taking the bush hogs and stuff and they're mowing the ditches. Well, they're not stopping in between patches of poison hemlock and blowing them off. And then the patches of poison hemlock keep spreading because they're taking it with them. Cleaning ATVs and trucks after they've, been out in the woods and everything. And then integrating these practices into your routine. It says it's tricky, but it's really not, because these don't take that long. I mean, to clean your boots off or whatever takes you less than a minute, probably depends on where you've been hiking at and how muddy they really are. So it's just making it a habit. Cleaning logging equipment would also be another place where we see a lot of Japanese stiltgrass come into play, is in logging pathways and stuff. They've not cleaned off their semis or their other logging equipment before they've come in. We're doing this because we want to avoid Japanese stiltgrass and Japanese chaff flower and the garlic mustard, because those seeds are sticking. They're really, really small. And something like a garlic mustard has like thousands of seeds in it. So if it's a plant that's tied up and it's got thousands of seeds in it, and you're taking that somewhere else. So depending on the size of the equipment, it could take all day. But at the end of the day, if you take all day to clean it versus spending hundreds and thousands of dollars to clean up the issue later on, then, and if you're a landowner and it happens and you don't have the time or maybe the ability to do it, then you're paying somebody else to do it. And that gets really pricey. So we want to choose native species for conservation plantings and landscaping rather than invasive species. We have a list. We will go over that list in a later class. And we'll show you where the list is to buying native plants. So early detection and rapid response, it's EDRR. Sometimes we're looking at this, we have to think about the cost of it. Is the chemical price going up? That has happened during COVID. Chemical prices have skyrocketed because of access to ingredients. There are, a few invasive species that if you take your time and walk right over the property areas, you could kind of go with a herbicide and spot spray them and get them taken care of. If there's more intense monitoring, the first 3 or 4 years after disturbance and really checking that property. Low intensity is focused, maybe it's 5 to 15 minutes per acre if you don't have a lot of invasives. It just really depends on the area and what you think you have. If you had a calorie pear and then it started to fruit and everything, then you may have a lot more scouting to do, because it's going to go out not just from the seed, but from the roots and stuff also. Strategic control of existing infestations. So the cost of treating dense stands of invasive brush can be very high, and in some cases exceeding $1,000 an acre, because you're paying someone as a private service. So if you have limited resources, this will get quite costly. And we have a list of foresters that would work on invasives. That's something that we can get to you later. And they can also help landowners assess government assistance and have access to government assistance. this might be a good time. You have it, if you live in Floyd County and you have invasives, we have some financial assistance. Angel, do you want to talk about it here? You want me to wait?
I'll grab it at the end.
Okay. Well, another teaser. You have to wait till the end to find out how you get some stuff. Money. That's right. So strategic controls of existing infestations. We need to, you might have a mix of things too. So identifying the plants you have. Is it a single or a mixed thing? What's the vegetation structure? Is how big is that size? So are these all herbaceous plants that are going to die back in the winter? Are they woody plants? Are they vines? What are they? How dense is it? What's the terrain like? Is it all hilly? Is it flat? Do you have access to get there? Are you going to have to do something like cut paths to even get there to try to treat it? What equipment's available? The types of herbicides, and do you have a calendar? We'll give you the next class on that one. Yes.
How effective is like goat shaving?
Oh, so it's better if you use sheep because sheep aren't as picky as goats are. Harrison County does a lot more with using sheep for invasive control than anybody else in the state, I think, because they actually have done a few workshops of taking the sheep out there, putting them in a pen, and then moving them around to let them graze. But I will tell you from someone whose parents own pygmy goats, get the sheep. They're less picky. People thought goats were not picky eaters. If they're around, yeah, they are. If they're especially around humans and stuff, like ours are, they don't even eat the grass. They're all gone now, but they would like let the grass in their pen grow and wait till my dad came to mow it and was like, cool, salad, thanks so much. I'm like, you're a goat, you're supposed to eat that. So it's been more effective using sheep than goats, but totally doable. And depending on what kind of sheep and stuff you get, then you can maybe get some other things down the line in terms of putting them into meat or wool or something else and getting another product out of them. So maybe recouping some of your cost is a way to think about that.
Rent them.
Rent them. You can rent them too. Yes, people do rent sheep out. So strategic controlling. Okay, here's an example that we're going to kind of think about. A well-stocked hardwood forest in west central Indiana has Asian bush honeysuckle it dominates the forest understory. So nice established woodland. The whole understory is Asian bush honeysuckle. Okay. So it ranges from light to 230 shrubs under 4.5 feet tall to no shrubs over 4.5 feet tall. So everything's maybe, in that small range. We got some smalls, we got some mediums, and then we have a heavy stocking of 2,500 shrubs under 4.5 feet, 220 over 4.5 feet. So we have both. Okay, we have areas that are heavily infested and areas that are not as heavily infested. Using a backpack sprayer, labor ranged from 2.4 hours per acre in the lightly stocked stand to 10 hours an acre in the heavily stocked stand. Mixed herbicide application rates ranged from 9 gallons per acre to 45 gallons per acre in the respective stands. Cost for the lightly stocked stand was $48 an acre for labor, and that's assuming $20 an hour. I will tell you that has gone up. There is no way anyone's just taking $20 an hour now. And $10 an acre for herbicide, which is glyphosate at $20 a gallon, and which is a total of $58 an acre. Cost for the heavily stocked stand is $200 an acre. Herbicides $41 an acre for a total of $241 an acre. So obviously we would prefer to have a lightly infested stand versus a heavily infested stand. Okay. But we also figure out what time of this is too, because if you're trying to treat this in our spring, it's so rainy now in our springs, you'll never have a good day probably to get out there and spray it. So you're gonna have to time it right to get out there on good days and spray, because you can't be spraying when it rains, because you'll have wasted your herbicide. So this is a cost example. We do have another one here. So using that example, you can plug in your own rates and see what you would get. again, they're going to range. I can't imagine anyone just charging you $20 an hour because they're going to have their cost of getting there, and gas fluctuates and everything else, and how in demand they are is also going to play into, you hiring someone or you trying to do it yourself. So again, you can think about that. We're not gonna make you actually plug in numbers and stuff. You'll get this you can play with this on your own time and think about what you might want to, because again, this is glyphosate. Depending on what chemical you have to use, that cost is going to change. It's going to change if you have to buy a surfactant, which is a chemical that makes the herbicide stick to the plant. This all changes. They have an activity on here for weed boards. I will tell you now, Floyd County does not have a weed board.
Don't bring it up either.
Don't bring it up either. It's a sore point. It's a real sore point. So a weed board would be a governing body that goes out, essentially that approves the county to make sure nobody's like violating the weed laws. There are state statutes about if they have noxious plants, then the township trustee can get on them and start fining them and things like that to eradicate the noxious plants. Can't do that with invasives. And if the township trustees don't know what they're looking at, then it becomes an issue also. Harrison County does have a weed board. I think Washington County has a weed board. I don't know about Clark County. Yeah, Clark County, no go. I know Floyd doesn't. That's why we do these classes, because it's a lot easier for us to educate you so you can educate your friends than trying to get a body together to go in and delegate, because then you create a lot of hurt feelings, because then you have people that maybe they didn't know they had a noxious weed or an invasive weed, and you send them a letter like yelling at them that they've got this plant they can't have. Well, what good does that do except upset them when they didn't know in the first place that it was not a great plant to have? And this is a contentious point across the state of Indiana about weed boards. Not every county has them. You bring it up and then you're like, wait, what did you find out about the weed board? We're like, I don't know. We're not going to talk about it. Just don't bring it up. Please don't bring it up. So if you want to go explore weed boards and stuff, you can, but there are statutes on the book to help control weeds.
It was mainly put in place for agricultural purposes. It was not meant to pick on neighbors or have neighbors ratting out neighbors over what was in their yard. It was a well-intended thing to try and help farmers in essence.
And then it got out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it did start becoming homeowner against homeowner, turning people in. And so, yeah, we don't need no hurt feelings or angry neighbors. We got enough other problems that's not one of them want to deal with. So when you're buying chemicals, because we give this spiel at the end of every section of this presentation, read and follow pesticide labels carefully. It is the law. I say this in my sleep. This is at the end of like every presentation we do about plants. You feel free to use pesticides. That's fine. But you must read and follow the labels, because it is a legal binding agreement between you and the EPA. So if they catch you misusing it, there are fines. I combined both, so we're not going to have to like open up other slides. Questions so far before we start the other presentation?
Let me explain to them what their potential for cost share in dollars. So I'm not just passing out money. I would like to, but I can't. So the Soil and Water Conservation District, as one of the entities, organizations that is attempting to help try and control and eradicate certain invasives here. We have a Clean Water Indiana grant currently right now that Floyd and Washington County is sharing. And our grant is for the purpose of helping people cost share removing invasives on their property and or planting natives to replace invasives. And if you're doing a pollinator, a habitat planting, or a riparian buffer, we can help cost share that too. But what we really wanted to target was some of those species that Gina just mentioned that are on our terrestrial plant rule. In fact, there's like a top 10 kind of hit list, if you will. Calorie pear is on the top of our list, even though it's not being enforced right now, because again, they didn't want to create financial hardships for nurseries. calorie pear, burning bush, the honeysuckles, the autumn olives, the barberry. Those are all things that if you have them on your property and you live here within the confines of Floyd County, you can apply to get some money. And the way that it works is, you ask me for an application, I give it to you. You fill out the application and maybe you've identified 2 spots. Maybe you have a burning bush and a calorie pear tree you want to take out. You have to be the one to do the legwork to go get a company to come and give you a quote. Once the company gives you a quote, you would send that with your application. The board looks at it. We have funding. We would approve that. You have the work done. You pay for the work. You submit your bill to me, and I'll reimburse you 75% of that bill, up to $1,000. And we've already helped cost share, since we received our dollars in, I guess it was March of last year. We've helped 6 homeowners here in Floyd County already. And 5 of those were getting rid of calorie pear trees. So while it may seem kind of small, 5 is really something to celebrate and get excited about, because at least it's a start. And as Gina said, helping educate people is one of the most critical things you can do, because if, like Gina said, if people don't know that, oh, I shouldn't be planting burning bush, they're going to continue to plant the burning bush, right? So helping spread that word and telling your neighbors about it. It sounds like quite a few of you guys live in Clark County, so you wouldn't be eligible for my program, unfortunately. But if you are here in Floyd County, we can cost share. If you have friends that live here in Floyd County, please let them know we have this if they're having issues with kind of invasives. The other thing too, in addition to some of the things that we're doing, the state board, the SICM, they have regional specialists. The regional specialist for our area, her name is Kayla, and is it LaPlace or LaPlace? She just recently read, so I'm not sure about the last.
It's LAP something.
LaPlace.
LaPlace.
Okay. She will come to your house and do a survey for you, free of charge.
And Rosa, you've had that done twice. Yeah.
Exactly, because this is all part of her region. Floyd, Scott, she's kind of the southeast region. And so again, if you've got a little bit of a yard, or you have more than a couple of things that you're not sure about, we'll give you Kayla's number and contact. And again, that's something that she will do for free, cost you nothing. And she'll come out and help you identify.
Yeah. So Rosa, you all walked her whole property, didn't you?
Yeah.
And she was taking notes the whole time. And
so help you identify it and then come up with a plan to help eradicate, or in some instances just manage, because sometimes it's a multi-year fight. So you're not gonna eradicate it completely, but you can manage it.
And I can only again how with my property, because I've got 30 acres and I hit all of the clear on the cases. And Harrison County for Riley, but they get a program also food salt water. It's a little bit better than, I mean, yours is great now, but mine is a 10-year program you can sign up for. And they give you $80 up to 30 acres the first year, and then $40 up to 30 acres the second year. So I got like $2,400 the first year. I was thinking the second, which sounds like a lot of money, but I tell you what, you guys, I worked and worked and worked. And I was out there spraying, not hitting my property, you know, to get probably in property and whatnot, and not hit it, you know, more than I figure out. Every day I would go out and do this portion of it. And it was work. I mean, with the automatic, I'm not about the chainsaw. I mean, all kinds of, you know, tractor here, whatever, you know, for the base of all floor. I'm not learning a lot of first, but she makes a real nice plan.
And something else too, if you're wanting to address some invasives on your property, but you don't want to go and invest in some of the tools, I've already done that. In my office, we have loaner kit that everything from a backpack sprayer to lockers and like the long rose slugs and things like that. We have daubers. So we have some items in the office that you can borrow. You just have to clean before you bring it back.
What do they do with the burning bushes when they eradicate them? Because when they leave their seeds, how do they dispose of it?
So the proper way, and what I believe Dawn would tell us, is to put it in a black bag. You can like cut it down. If you can cut it in pieces, put it in a black bag and leave it stay in the black bag until it's starting to literally like almost break down, so that it dies, so that you make sure nothing in there is going to be viable.
But the seeds, you would have to wait till they sprout and then you have to go back. So I had burning bush at my house. I cut mine down the day I moved in almost. They're just now starting to come back up. So they were gone for almost 10 years. There's been enough, I guess, of the roots to regenerate and start to pop back up.
Well, if you cut it before it starts leafing out again, wouldn't that be okay for?
So you still have to get the roots and treat the roots in some form or fashion because it'll re-sprout. But we'll give you a calendar about that next time on how to treat them, when to treat them. Because there is a calendar of best time to treat the different plants and what chemicals to use.
When you're going to see. Yeah, winter is really kind of a great time.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Hopefully our cold snaps are enough to like knock them back a little bit, but I don't know about that. We'll see. Other questions? Right now is a great time to ask them. So I looked up your winter aconite. It is considered an aggressive. It is not an invasive. So it's buttercup. And so it is not invasive. It's just aggressive. So think about ground ivy or creeping Charlie. It's not on the invasive. It just has an aggressive personality. We have the same with native plants too.
Mountain mint.
Mountain mint is one. So the mint family tends to spread. Obedient plant. That's what I was going for. Obedient plant is a native. You would think that in its name, it would be obedient. It does not. If you want to plant it, you're better to put it in a pot and sink the pot in the ground because it has an aggressive tendency. So aggressive is not the same as invasive. Right? No, it's okay. All right. We'll get into the second slide set for tonight. So this is reporting, recording, and tracking. And it's important to do this stuff because we can't help control things if we don't know where they're at, especially on public lands. And to report them through the proper channels help scientists and managers locate and track the species, recording how it spreads across an area locally, nationally, and in some cases globally. And so we're going to kind of go over that. An example for Floyd County is there's a bug that's associated with kudzu and soybeans. So for several years, professors at Purdue would reach out and say, hey, can you give me addresses for 3 soybean fields in your county? And they were surveying along the Ohio River soybean fields because they wanted to see if that beetle or that bug was working its way between the kudzu that we have in the state and the soybeans. And so without us telling them, hey, here's where you can go to track it at or whatever, they must have decided it didn't make it this far because they gave up before the pandemic. They stopped asking us for fields before the pandemic. So websites and apps, we're kind of going to go over how do you use the tool to identify the species? How can you report it? What are others doing about management for the species? And what you can do and what educational resources are here. So the first one is EdMaps, EDD Maps. And you can go here and what you can't see on the headline is it has report sightings, distribution maps, species information, tools and training, the map itself, and then the about. So when you open it up, you can do web reporting, and this can be either an app or you can be on the website to do this. It can go either way. Because there's a smartphone app, which the smartphone is nicer to do it that way because it also, you won't have to think about putting in your latitude and longitude, like, because your phone will pick it up from a GPS. You can download data and everything else. But this is supported by Indian Invasive Species Council, the Nature Conservancy, Purdue, BOA, DNR, University of Georgia is involved also. Because that's kind of where it's housed at, I guess, and Bugwood. So for the web reporting, this is the online feature. You will log in. It does like you to log in to report. You wouldn't have to log in to look at the distribution map, but just to report it, create your username and password. And then you're going to pick what you're reporting on. Is it a plant, insect, disease, or wildlife? You will go through. This is an example of a plant. So they put in Japanese honeysuckle. This is a drop down. So my guess is they were able to pick which one of the honeysuckles, they were able to identify it. And then it gave the date of observation. You can put in how many acres are infested, where it's at, if it's, just scattered throughout the woods, or is it kind of pretty dense. You can do, is it a mature stand? Is there damage? Yes or no? So this is an example of what that looks like. You put the state, the county. Again, if you have your phone, you can pick up the latitude, longitude, and put that in. You can give more of a description. Are you the owner or someone else the owner? That helps. That way they know who to contact. Like if they see it and the state's like, "Ooh, that's one we've not seen before. We really need to figure out who that owner is so we can come on the property and check it out." That kind of stuff. You can also upload images so that other people can check it and see if that's really what you have. Once you hit submit, you get this nice little thank you for submitting response back so that you know it was taken. But again, you can do that on your smartphone, and your smartphone's going to grab your exact location when you did it. Now on the distribution map, we can go in and we can play with it, and we can see what things are in each county and how densely populated they are there. So they pick plants, they bring up all kinds of stuff: aquatics, forbs, grasses, shrubs, trees, vines, other. I'm not sure what what's falling under other, because we've listed pretty much everything but like ferns or forbs. So I'm not really sure what we're calling others, unless it's like moss or something like that. So for this one, they clicked on plants and they chose Canada thistle. Okay, you can choose. There's Dalmatian toadflax here. There's Japanese honeysuckle. There's spotted knapweed. And again, you'll see that the common name is listed first. That's probably because most people don't know the scientific name, but the scientific name is there because we have several plants that also have the exact same common name, and even their Latin names are pretty similar. So we have to hash that out later on. So they chose Canada thistle, and you can search by, when this was taken, 218,518 records of Canada thistle. So we can search by state, county, or a specific point. So this is showing, they took a screenshot of just essentially the middle of Illinois over to the eastern seaboard. And inside the dots are how many reports. So this dot has 32, and this was positive. So someone confirmed 32. Down here, in Indianapolis area, there's 24 confirmed. These ones that are yellow are areas that have been treated. So they were able to treat partial areas. If there was any green dots, that would be a report of a sighting that's been eradicated. As you can see, though, there's no green dots. So there is a bigger one. This one has a little bit, it's bluish, not green. But that's the only difference there. But you can see Canada thistle is obviously very widespread. And not just in Canada. Now you can look at the map as a whole, and we don't have reports in Oklahoma, Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina. Like, we don't have a lot of reports. Does that mean doesn't mean they're not there? It just means someone's not said anything. Maybe maybe people in Oklahoma just don't care about invasive species. They're like, whatevs. Or Florida has bigger issues maybe than Canada thistle. I don't know. I mean, they've got a lot of sinkholes and stuff, so maybe there's other things they're worried about. And then we have the smaller map that shows Illinois and Indiana. Okay, if we have Canada thistle all over the state of Indiana, but yet only like half of Illinois is covered, seems a little odd. So it just means that no one's reported in those parts of the state. We know it's there. We're not dumb. We know how planes move and stuff. It's there. It's just no one said anything. Here's a difference. So this is the future certainality and future ranges. So where it wasn't at, or where it was at, we already know it was here. So this is looking further out, and the legend is in, I would say, years here. So we know this is going to happen pretty soon, and then farther out, all the way out to California. Okay. Dark green represents areas where models agree that the species will eventually exist in that area. But as we know, it's really found everywhere. So it's Canada thistle. It has gone. Then you can click on it and look at the species information. So it gives relative information about it's a perennial weed, how the seeds work, the problems with it, and then it gives chemical control options. So, 2,4-D and works give aspect clear view brush. So they're giving legitimate chemical names. If you call me, I will never do that. I cannot give you a chemical brand name. I can tell you what the active ingredient is, but I can never tell you as extension what to go by. I might say, hey, Ortho had a blue bottle or something like that. It used to be called this, but you're looking for something like that. It's a 3-in-1 or whatever. But you're never going to have me say, look, this is exactly what you have to go by. Can't do that. I can only tell you chemical names. And then I have to spell them for you because I can't ever say them right anyway. Then there's tools and stuff. So there's a database for statistics, recently added records, training materials, all that fun stuff. And then this is the app. So the app does look a little bit different. It is available in both Apple and Android versions for all of you that aren't Apple lovers. And as you can see, it just looks a little bit different. All this stuff's still there. You click on new sighting. It would ask you about the plants. Then you could pick which plant that you're looking at. So it's, again, all the same, just looks a little bit different on a phone, which we all are used to by now. Things look a little different on a phone than they do a website. You can do EdMaps Pro and see the same stuff in terms of looking at distribution maps. You can get maps offline. You can upload some information too. So that's EdMaps. And then we have the Great Lakes Early Detection. Pretty similar. It's another app that you can download. It's very similar to EdMaps application in terms of its use and functionality. Being made by the exact same developers, it reports back to EdMaps. So you could do this one and it still goes to EdMaps. Like the others, it gives you a list of species and accompanying information from them, as well as the ability to report a negative survey and manage different survey sites. So you could download this one and it goes to EdMaps, or you just download EdMaps and go with EdMaps. But again, same, you're looking at species category, plant, wildlife, what species are there. You will, that says EdMaps login. So you can even log into the EdMaps from this because it reports to EdMaps. Okay. Then again, you see the aquatics, the bird, they're even like the exact same photos because it's EdMaps. It's just in a different package. So you can play with that a little bit if you want. We'll have time that we'll pull it up here on the internet in just a couple of minutes. Then you have invasive species. So this is a Purdue website. It's up in the corner here, ag.purdue. That should be a dot, not a comma, edu /report invasives. So this one, its official title is Report Invasives, and the website is organized into 3 sections. It is Learn, Identify, and Report. All species and resources on this site are specific to Indiana. So where EdMaps covers the whole continent, this is strictly to Indiana. And if you click on it to learn about invasives, what makes a species invasive, why do you care? And this is on the learn about invasives. Okay. And then you click on identify feature, and you can find that by scrolling down the page. The images shown are part of the scroll bar. So you would see this on the scroll bar. And you can click on each invasive species to learn more. So if you want to learn more about spotted lanternfly, click on that nice orange bug there. And it tells you all the information about it. Each species has a unique set of resources, including videos, posters, fact sheets, and more. So if you were going to give a talk and you needed stuff, this would be a great place to download some resources to hand out to friends and family, to let them know about spotted lanternfly, which the DNR does want everyone's help in identifying because they want to catch it before it gets out of control. Then to see a larger list of Indiana invasive species, click on species information, and you can search by the habitat, whether that's a garden, a forest, an urban area, and you can do species group just like you can with EdMaps, being plant, animal, insect. In the drop-down menu, each species listed will have accompanying details. You just have to click on the name or the associated picture. So here is what calorie pair, when they clicked on it, other names: Calorie, Bradford, Aristocrat, Autumn Blaze, Cleveland Select, White House, Ornamental. It's got all kinds of names on it. So it lists everything because everybody calls it something different. Where did it come from? Well, it was imported in the early 1900s to be used as an ornamental tree. Okay, why is it invasive? It's crowding out our natives, and someone made an oopsie and it was supposed to be a sterile plant and it's obviously not sterile. Why that oopsie happened, who knows? And so, but you can see here, it gives a list of resources, but it also gives you other plants to consider planting in its place that maybe will give you the same kind of look that you're going for. Then you can click on resources and you'll find content for kids crafts, and find links to Purdue's plant and pest diagnostics lab. Okay, so if you want to do the spotted lanternfly, there's an origami for it. So you can like download the origami because you want all these kids running around with a spotted lantern origami thing. They probably would, but you really want to find the egg sac. It looks like grayish brown putty on surfaces, which is hard to spot because you would just think it might blend in. Like you might be walking by and be like, "Oh, it looks like a tree frog or whatever." Like because tree frogs get kind of flat and I don't know what you're like rocks and it can be up high. Yeah, when Pennsylvania got it, they didn't do a lot initially, and then it became a problem. So when they found out Indiana had it, they called and said, "You really have to get ahead of this. Like, don't make our mistake." And they were hosting classes for farmers to go to learn how to identify it. Because there was a group I watched out of Pennsylvania. They're like, "Yep, we have our certificate. We've gone to our class, so we can spot it on our own farm and start to eradicate it." So
It has been found here.
It has. Yep, there are 2 sightings that I know of. I'm sure there will be more. But Switzerland County and Huntington, Indiana. Yep, there was a second one in northern Indiana. So obviously several miles apart. So they're not really sure. They thought it was just localized to Switzerland County, and then that one in northern Indiana popped up and they're like, "Huh, what happened?" Because we knew what happened. Did it come to Switzerland County? Did it come on something else? And they just don't know. So this is, you can also report. So if you return to the home page and click on the report feature, there are 3 locations listed for reporting. We've done the EdMaps, so that's the first one there. That's like the little computer is the EdMaps. You can call 1-866 no exotic, and this is used for discussing terrestrial invasives with an expert. So this would be meaning that it lives on land, so no aquatic plants here, no aquatic anything. This is strictly terrestrial land stuff. It ties you into the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. And the third resource is the direct email for the DNR Invasives team. And it is depp@dnr.in.gov. I have no idea what the D, the E, the P, or the other P stand for, but that's what their email address is for the DNR to get directly to DNR. So you can, that's how you use it. And we can open that up in a little bit. And then Indiana Invasive Species Council has a website. It is down here at the bottom. www.entm.purdue.edu/IISC/index.html. Okay, so this is Indiana Invasive Species Council. You can scroll down this webpage and you'll find a view of all topics listed in the banner, the reported, the events, invasive species list, and you can click on it to go directly to those links. The reported references to EdMaps and other resources for reporting identification. Events shows the calendar of events that you can attend. This could be a series or a webinar, could be meeting times for the council, there's committees, and these are people that serve on the IISC. There's resources. Again, we've seen the resources before. You can also find contact information for the Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area. So that's a SISMA. So Floyd County has a SISMA. It's Floyd County Native Habitat Restoration Team. If you want to join, we will take you because we would love to have better numbers. But this is a local grassroots effort. So that's what Indiana has done to combat invasives. I don't know that a lot of states have done it this way, but they were encouraging every county to make a SISMA to tackle invasives on public lands. Can't do private, but we can do like county parks, state parks. Even here, even though it's privately owned, it is publicly used. So we do weed wrangles here to remove invasives. And we have, of 92 counties, about half of them, or maybe a little more, have started to establish a SISMA. We did really great starting one prior to the pandemic. The pandemic killed us. We had like 40 people coming to events, and then we're lucky to get 10 in a room now when we're having that stuff. Clark County had a SISMA. It's not full, it's just not super active. So we're trying to partner with Clark County. We've done an event before at Lapping Park where we removed invasives and then we went back into plant natives. That was also a fun night because my natives grew legs and started to walk into people's cars. And when I yelled at them to put my plants back, they're like, but they left them here for us to take home. I'm like, no, they didn't. That's for an activity tonight. They're like, no, they always leave stuff. I'm like, no, they don't. You've been stealing the plants this whole time. And so then I guilted them into helping us plant stuff after they played Frisbee golf. But it did happen. But we were able to do something because they really wanted to help promote invasives. They liked their disc golf course and they said, what can we do? And that was a way to help improve it, was to remove invasives and plant some natives, and got 2 workshops out of it. We've been to Georgetown Park. That's not what it's called. Gary Cabin, and the pile that we collected out of a very small area, like maybe 2-3 tables long, a couple of tables wide, was taller than I was, and massive, that we left on the pavement for Parks Department to come get.
And we did one recently at Community Park.
We did.
And we're going to be doing another one at Community Park on the 24th.
Yeah. 10 to 12. We don't start early. We don't do early starts, but 10 to 12. Shelter House 5. We'll give you a flyer before that time. Next week, you can have a flyer about that event. But the state was trying to take a different approach to how to manage invasives, because we can offer classes like this, but then if we can also get you to maybe invite a friend to one of our weed wrangles, then that friend starts to learn about the invasives, and it kind of is this nice trickle effect. We've done stuff with Clint. So Clint lives at the Bellwood condominiums, and they have